Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 10-minute Bible lesson. We appreciate you joining us today. Well, we've been doing our lessons about the life of Jacob. And if you were following last lesson, we could see that Jacob got together with his wives and they decided it was time to leave. They wanted to leave Laban. In fact, the scripture says that God spoke to Jacob and told him that it was time to leave. So what did Jacob do? Well, he got all of his goats and all of his sheep and all of his camel and all of his wives and sons and his daughters and his servants, and they headed back to Canaan. And so they, I think that's pretty cool. They'd been there. They said he'd been there like for 21 years. So I think it was time to go back. Well, let's look in Genesis chapter 32. Verses 1 and 2. It says, so Jacob went on his way. Now notice this. And the angels of God met him. When Jacob saw them, he said, this is God's camp. And he called the name of that place Mahanaim. So I have to ask this question, and it's kind of a self-answering question. Are God's angels here on earth sometimes? And I think the answer is obvious, because right here they were there with Jacob. Now, do you remember when Jacob was heading to see his uncle Laban, that he had that dream about the ladder? And what was it about the ladder? The angels of God were ascending and descending upon it. And so God had promised, he had said, he had given Jacob his promise that he would keep him wherever he would go. So Jacob, he came to this place and he saw these angels, and these angels met him, and he said, this is where the angels of God are camping. Hey, wouldn't you like for the angel of God to camp around your house? I think it'd be pretty cool. Well, in the book of Psalm, chapter 34, or division 34, verse 7, it says this: the angel of the Lord encamps all around those who fear him and delivers them. And here it is. We can see that the angels are watching over Jacob. God's going to keep his promise if he made it. And here's another thing. In the New Testament, in the book of Hebrews, chapter 1, verse 14, it says this about the angels. It says, are they not all ministering spirits sent forth to minister for those who will inherit salvation? Now, to me, that tells me that God sends his angels to protect and to watch over his people. So Jacob's returning home back to the land of Canaan. What do you think is foremost on Jacob's mind? Well, I'm just thinking this, that time hasn't erased the memory of his brother's threat to kill him. Do you remember that? Now, why did Esau threaten to kill him? Because Jacob's mother, or their mother, Rebekah, and Jacob schemed together and kind of stole and tricked and obtained the family blessing. And it really, really angered Esau. So what was Jacob going to do? He was going to send messengers ahead of him to somehow find out if it would be okay to come back. Well, let's go ahead and read. And this is in Genesis chapter 32, verses 4 and 5. And he commanded them, saying, speak thus to my lord Esau. Thus your servant Jacob says, I have dwelt with Laban and stayed there until now. I have oxen, donkeys, flocks, and male and female servants, and I have sent to tell my Lord that I may find favor in your sight. So Jacob is not only concerned, about his own life, but now he has a lot more people and things to be concerned about. That is to say, his own family. And I think that rightly so. He has it. But I noticed something in this communication that the messengers were supposed to deliver to his brother. I noticed the humility in the way that Jacob addressed his brother. In fact, he says, tell Esau that your servant is coming. And then he called Esau his Lord. And so all of that, I think, is really interesting because it kind of tells his spirit and his attitude. And actually, he's wanting to find favor. Well, let's go ahead and read the last two verses. And that's also in Genesis chapter 32, and it's verses 6 and 7. Let's see the response when the messengers come back and give the report back to Jacob. Let's see what it says. Then the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, we came to your brother Esau, and he also is coming to meet you. And, notice this, 400 men are with him. So Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed, and he divided the people that were with him and the flocks and the herds and the camels into two companies. So just think about this. The messengers return with this report, and it causes great fear to come upon Jacob. And why wouldn't it do that? Not only that, but it says it caused him to be afraid and distressed. What does it mean to be distressed? Well, I'm sure that you and all of us have been distressed. That means that we've been overwhelmed with worry and anxiety about what may happen or about the circumstances. And so that's what happens. What was he afraid of? He was worried about what his brother was going to do. And on top of that, get this. Why wouldn't this make us afraid? His brother is coming with 400 people, 400 men. Well, I can see that would really, really terrify anyone. So Jacob, listen, remember that Jacob's name means supplanter or schemer. So it's kind of part of his MO, so to speak. He's a schemer, and he plans things out and tries to work things out. He's kind of like we are. We kind of do everything we can almost to figure things out, to work things out. And then finally, when we just can't do it, we'll pray. And that's too bad. But Jacob, he had this plan, and his plan was to do this. He was going to divide his people and his flocks into two groups. Now, he knew that he couldn't escape completely from his brother if his brother attacked him, but he thought somehow that if he attacked, he would only get one company. At least he wouldn't wipe out everyone. And that's kind of what was kind of his plan. Now, we don't have time today in this lesson to see what this meeting happened. Now, if you want to read ahead, you can. That's very interesting. But next time, we're going to see what happens when these two brothers that were at odds and that had been apart for so long, we're going to see what happens. So we hope that you'll join us next time, and we hope that you have a really good week.